You're nothing but a useless old woman who needs to stay out of our way. The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood in my son Charlie's pristine kitchen, gripping the counter to steady myself as my daughter-in-law Scarlett's voice echoed in my ears. At 65, I'd heard my share of insults, but this one cut deeper than most. I'm Mallory, and until that moment, I'd spent years playing the role of the quiet, accommodating mother-in-law. The kind who brings casseroles to family dinners and babysits on demand. The kind who smiles and nods when Scarlett makes snide comments about my outdated fashion choices or my old-fashioned views on business. I'm just trying to help with the company's expansion plans, I said, keeping my voice steady. I have some experience in… Experience? Scarlett laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. She adjusted her designer blazer, a gesture I'd seen her make countless times before important meetings. Running a small craft store 20 years ago hardly qualifies you to advise on modern business strategies. If she only knew. I caught my reflection in her polished refrigerator door, gray hair neatly styled, wearing one of my intentionally modest cardigans. The perfect picture of a harmless grandmother. Mom, maybe Scarlett's right. Charlie chimed in from the doorway, not even looking up from his phone. The business world has changed a lot. Why don't you focus on planning Aiden's graduation party instead? My grandson Aiden, who had been quietly doing homework at the kitchen island, looked up with concern in his eyes. Dad, Grandma's actually really smart about… Not now, Aiden. Scarlett cut him off. The adults are talking. I watched my 17-year-old grandson's face fall, and something inside me snapped. Not the kind of snap that leads to angry outbursts, but the kind that brings crystal clarity. The kind that makes you realize you've been playing the wrong game all along. You're absolutely right, Scarlett, I said, smiling sweetly. I should know my place. She looked surprised by my easy acquiescence, then satisfied. I'm glad you understand. Now about Aiden's party. I'll leave the planning to you, I interrupted, gathering my purse. You're so much better at these things than a useless old woman like me. As I walked to my car, I pulled out my phone and made 2 calls. The first was to my old friend Blake, who happened to sit on the board of Charlie's company. The second was to Hope, my best friend and the only person who knew the truth about my past. It's time, I told Hope, starting my car. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? The one where you finally show them who you really are? Hope asked. Are you sure? I thought about Scarlett's smirk, Charlie's dismissal, and most importantly, the way they'd silenced Aiden. They want to talk about useless? Let's see who's really useless when this is over. What changed your mind? Hope's voice was curious. You've been content to play the background role for years. They crossed a line today, I said, pulling into traffic. It's not just about me anymore. They're teaching Aiden that it's okay to dismiss people based on age and gender. I won't let him inherit that kind of thinking. The mighty Mallory Warren finally stepping out of the shadows. Hope chuckled. Should I call the lawyers? Yes, and Hope? Tell them to bring everything. The acquisitions records, the patents, the offshore accounts, all of it. It's going to shake your family to the core when they find out, she warned. I thought about the empire I'd built in secret, the companies I'd acquired, the innovations I'd funded, all while playing the role of the simple widow who ran a craft store. I thought about how Charlie's company had only succeeded because of my anonymous investments and behind-the-scenes guidance through Blake. Sometimes families need a good shaking, I replied. And Scarlett needs to learn that underestimating people is a dangerous game. As I drove home, I felt lighter than I had in years. The mask I'd worn for so long was finally coming off. I caught myself smiling in the rearview mirror, and this time it wasn't the placid smile of a doting grandmother. It was the smile of a woman who had built and sold 3 tech companies, who held patents in 2 countries, and who was about to teach her family a lesson they'd never forget. Let's see who's useless now, I whispered to myself, already planning my next move. You've been busy these past few weeks, Blake said, sliding a folder across his mahogany desk. 3% of company shares acquired through shell corporations. Very clever, Mallory. I picked up the folder, scanning the numbers I already knew by heart. 3% is just the beginning. How's our friend in accounting doing with those reports I requested? Nervous. Blake leaned back in his chair, a knowing smile playing on his lips. He's discovered some interesting discrepancies in Scarlett's department, the kind that make board members very uncomfortable. The corner office view behind him showcased the city skyline I'd helped build, one deal at a time. 20 years ago, I'd chosen to step back from the spotlight after my husband's death, protecting my children from the harsh glare of public success. Now, that decision felt like a mistake. My phone buzzed. A text from Aiden. "Grandma, Mom's been talking about you at dinner again. Dad just sits there. I hate it." "Everything all right?" Blake asked, noting my expression. "Family dynamics," I replied, typing back a quick, reassuring message to my grandson. "Speaking of which, how's Charlie handling the pressure? Your son's a good CEO on paper, but he's too dependent on Scarlett's input. The board's getting restless. 3 major clients have expressed concerns about the new direction." I stood up, walking to the window. "And my daughter? Olivia?" Blake shuffled some papers. Still stuck in middle management despite having the best track record in her division. Scarlett's made sure of that. The intercom buzzed and Blake's assistant announced Hope's arrival. My oldest friend walked in, impeccably dressed and carrying her signature red briefcase. "Well, if it isn't the secret billionaire," Hope announced, setting her briefcase down. "I've got the documents you wanted. Proof of every patent, every acquisition, every company you've built and sold. Ready to shock the world?" "Not the world," I corrected. "Just my family." "Blake, what's the status of that emergency board meeting?" "Scheduled for next month. Scarlett's already trying to block it, but she doesn't know who's really behind the push." Hope opened her briefcase, pulling out more files. "Your daughter-in-law's been busy too. Look at these expense reports." I examined the documents, my jaw tightening. "She's been funneling company resources into her personal projects. Does Charlie know?" "Your son sees what he wants to see," Blake said quietly. Just like he did when Scarlett orchestrated Olivia's last promotion denial. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Olivia. "Mom, weird things are happening at work. Some board members keep asking me about my 5-year plan. What's going on?" "Tell her nothing," Hope advised, reading over my shoulder. "Not yet." I typed back a non-committal response, then turned to Blake. "How much more evidence do we need?" "We have enough to force a leadership review," he confirmed. "But are you sure you want to do this? Once you reveal yourself, there's no going back. Your relationship with Charlie might never recover." The memory of Scarlett's sneering face flashed through my mind, followed by Charlie's dismissive attitude and Olivia's frustrated tears at being passed over again. My relationship with Charlie changed the moment he let his wife turn me into a punchline. I said firmly. "Besides, this isn't just about me anymore. It's about Olivia's future and the example we're setting for Aiden." Hope touched my arm. "Speaking of Aiden, he called me yesterday. Asked if I knew why you'd been meeting with corporate lawyers." "What did you tell him?" "That his grandmother is a lot smarter than people give her credit for." Hope smiled. "That boy adores you, you know. Then I better make sure I'm worthy of that adoration," I said, gathering the files. "Blake, start the process. I want those shares transferred to my name by next week. Hope, get the legal team ready. It's time to remind everyone that age doesn't define capability." As I walked to my car, another text came through. From Scarlett this time. "Charlie tells me you've been asking questions about the company. Stay in your lane, Mallory. You're embarrassing yourself." I smiled at the phone, thinking about the bombshell waiting to drop. 20 years ago, I'd chosen to hide my success to protect my family. I'd played the role of the simple widow, letting them believe I was nothing more than a small-time shop owner. I'd watched silently as Scarlett built her power base in my son's company, undermining anyone she saw as a threat. That silence ends now. "Game on, dear," I whispered, starting my car. "Game on." "Mom, what exactly are you up to?" Olivia sat across from me at our favorite cafe, her untouched latte growing cold. 3 senior executives have approached me this week about future opportunities. I stirred my tea, buying time. My daughter had inherited my business instincts. even if circumstances had kept her from fully using them. What makes you think I'm up to anything? Because I know that look, she said, leaning forward. It's the same look you had when Dad died and everyone said you couldn't manage on your own. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with a message from Blake. Scarlett called an impromptu department heads meeting. She's making moves. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to make a quick call. Outside the cafe, I dialed Blake. Put me on speaker. I want to hear this. The muffled sounds of the conference room came through, and Scarlett's voice cut clear and sharp. The old guard needs to understand that this company requires fresh perspectives. We can't let sentimentality about age or experience hold us back. Is this about the proposed board restructuring? Someone asked. This is about protecting our future, Scarlett replied, and eliminating dead weight. Starting with certain female executives who clearly reached their ceiling years ago. I ended the call, my hands shaking with anger. Walking back inside, I found Olivia staring out the window, looking defeated. They're going to push me out, aren't they? She asked quietly. Scarlett's never going to let me advance. I sat down and took her hand. Olivia, do you remember that summer you helped me in the craft store? You were 12 and you reorganized the entire inventory system in 2 weeks. Mom, what does that have to do with... You have my business sense, I continued, but you've let them convince you to think small, just like they tried to do to me. Her eyes narrowed. What do you mean, tried? I pulled out my phone and showed her a series of documents. Her eyes widened as she scrolled through page after page of acquisitions, patents, and company valuations. I don't understand, she whispered. These are worth millions, billions. How? That little craft store? It was just a cover. I've built and sold companies across 3 continents. Charlie's company? I funded its initial expansion through shell corporations. Olivia sat back, her coffee completely forgotten. Does anyone know? Hope, Blake, a few trusted advisors. I smiled. And now you. But why keep it secret? Why let Scarlett treat you like... Because after your father died, I wanted to protect you and Charlie from the publicity, from the pressure. I thought I was doing the right thing. I shook my head. I was wrong. Olivia's phone buzzed, an email from Scarlett about budget cuts in her department. Her face hardened as she read it. She's trying to force me out, Olivia said, putting the phone down. She's always seen me as a threat. She should, I replied. Because you are. And it's time we showed her exactly how much of a threat we can be. Just then, Aiden walked into the cafe, his school backpack slung over one shoulder. Mom? Grandma, what are you doing here? Perfect timing, I said, gesturing for him to join us. We're having a family meeting. About how Mom and Dad treat you? He asked, sliding into the booth. Because I heard them talking last night. It wasn't good. Olivia reached for her son's hand. Things are going to change, honey. Your grandmother's been teaching me some very interesting lessons about business. Really? Aiden's eyes lit up. Is this about those corporate lawyers I saw you with, Grandma? I nodded. It's time for some truth-telling in this family, but I need both of you to keep this quiet for just a little longer. What about Dad? Aiden asked. Olivia and I exchanged looks. Your father, I said carefully, has some hard lessons coming his way. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Blake. Scarlett's pushing for immediate department restructuring. She wants Olivia out by month's end. I showed the message to Olivia, whose face set in a determined line I recognized from my own mirror. What's the plan? She asked. First, we document everything. Every slight, every manipulation, every instance of discrimination. Then, at the emergency board meeting next month, we show them exactly what happens when you underestimate the wrong women. Aiden grinned. Can I help? I looked at my grandson, seeing the same fire that had driven me all those years ago. Actually, yes. How would you like to learn about corporate strategy from someone who's built a few empires? A few? Olivia raised an eyebrow. Well, I smiled. Let's just say Scarlett's about to learn that this useless old woman has been playing chess while she's been playing checkers. Emergency board meeting? Charlie's voice crackled through my phone speaker. What's going on, Mom? Scarlett's furious. I'm sure she is, I replied, watching Hope arrange documents on my dining room table. Tell her to check her email. She'll find it interesting. I ended the call as it started ringing again, this time from Scarlett. Declined. Your daughter-in-law's been busy, Hope said, holding up a stack of papers. 3 separate attempts to force Olivia out, all disguised as departmental restructuring. The paper trail is beautiful. Olivia walked in, carrying her laptop. You should see the emails I just forwarded to Blake. Scarlett's been systematically blocking promotions for every woman under 40 in senior positions. And here's the best part. Hope grinned, pulling out another folder. Remember that mysterious investor who's been buying up shares? The one Scarlett's been desperately trying to identify? My phone buzzed again. Scarlett. Whatever you think you're doing, stop. You're making a fool of yourself. I showed the message to Hope, who laughed. Oh, she has no idea. The doorbell rang. Aiden stood there with his backpack, looking nervous. Dad's having a meltdown. Mom's locked herself in her office making calls. Come in, I said, hugging him. Your mother's about to learn a valuable lesson about karma. Is that my favorite grandson? Hope called out. Come here, we need your input on something. Aiden joined us at the table, his eyes widening at the spread of documents. Whoa, is this all evidence against Mom? This, I said, pointing to one stack, is proof of discrimination. This is financial misconduct. And this, I tapped the largest pile, is everything your mother doesn't know about who really owns her company. Speaking of ownership, Blake's voice came from my laptop, where we had him on video call. The final share transfer just went through. Mallory, you now officially own 28% of the company. Charlie's face flashed in my mind. The way he'd dismissed me, followed Scarlett's lead in belittling his own mother. The son I'd protected had become someone I barely recognized. Mom, Olivia said softly. Are you sure about this? Once we do this. I'm sure, I replied, straightening the papers. Scarlett wants to talk about deadweight? Let's show her what real corporate power looks like. My phone lit up with another message. From Charlie. Mom, please, whatever this is, we can talk about it. Scarlett's just stressed. Stressed? Hope scoffed, reading over my shoulder. She's terrified. Her little kingdom's about to crumble. Grandma, Aiden spoke up. What happens after? To Dad, I mean. I sat beside him. Your father needs to learn that actions have consequences. But he's still my son, and you're still his son. We'll find a way forward. Blake cleared his throat from the laptop. Mallory, Scarlett's calling an emergency executive meeting for tomorrow morning. She's trying to push through Olivia's termination before the board meeting. Perfect, I smiled. Hope, is everything ready? Legal team standing by. Press releases drafted. Social media campaign prepared to highlight the company's, let's call them, gender equality issues. Olivia's phone chimed. Scarlett just sent me a meeting invitation for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Urgent departmental restructuring discussion. Accept it, I said, gathering the documents into folders. But you won't be going alone. You're coming too? Aiden asked. Better, Hope grinned. Show him, Mallory. I pulled out one final document, my original business card from 20 years ago. The one that listed me as CEO of the tech company I'd built and sold for billions. The one that proved every assumption Scarlett had made about me wrong. Tomorrow morning, I said, we're going to attend that meeting. All of us. And Scarlett's going to learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. Dad's going to flip out, Aiden said, but he was smiling. Probably, Olivia agreed. But maybe it's time he remembered who his mother really is. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Scarlett. You're making a huge mistake. Back off now, or you'll regret it. I showed the message to everyone. Hope laughed. Olivia shook her head. Aiden rolled his eyes. Blake, still on video call, just smiled. Should I respond? I asked. Oh, definitely, Hope said. Make it good, I typed. Dear Scarlett, looking forward to tomorrow's meeting. By the way, do you know what the majority shareholders' rights are in a corporate restructuring? You might want to look that up. Love, your useless mother-in-law. Sent, I announced, putting my phone down. Now let's finish preparing for tomorrow. We have a company to reclaim and a daughter-in-law to educate. And a family to fix, Aiden added quietly. I squeezed his hand. Yes, sweetheart. That too. The executive conference room fell silent as I walked in, Hope and Blake flanking me. Scarlett stood at the head of the table, her presentation about necessary restructuring frozen on the screen behind her. Charlie sat to her right, his face pale as he took in my unexpected appearance. Mom, he stammered. What are you doing here? Attending a meeting about my company, I replied, setting my briefcase on the table. Please, Scarlett, continue. You were saying something about eliminating dead weight? Scarlett's perfectly manicured hands gripped the back of her chair. This is a private executive meeting. You're not authorized to… Actually, Blake interrupted, distributing folders to everyone present. As majority shareholder, Mrs. Warren is authorized to attend any company meeting she wishes. Majority what? Charlie's voice cracked. Scarlett snatched a folder, her face draining of color as she read. This is impossible. These shares, the shell companies, were mine, I finished. All of them. Along with the initial capital that saved this company 5 years ago when you nearly ran it into the ground with that failed expansion. The door opened again, and Olivia walked in, taking a seat beside me. Scarlett's eyes narrowed. You're supposed to be clearing out your office. About that. Olivia smiled, opening her laptop. I've been going through some interesting emails. Should we discuss your systematic discrimination against female executives, or would you prefer to start with the financial misconduct? Charlie stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. Mom, what are you doing? This is my company. Is it? I pulled out my original business card, sliding it across the table. Did you never wonder how I afforded to send you to business school? How I maintained our lifestyle after your father died? That little craft store was a cover, Charlie. I've built and sold more companies than you've had birthday parties. The room erupted in whispers. Board members leaned forward, examining the documents in front of them. This is ridiculous, Scarlett snapped. You expect us to believe that the useless old woman you've been mocking is actually a self-made billionaire? Hope interjected. The same woman who holds patents in 3 countries? Who funded tech startups while you were still in college? Yes, that's exactly what we expect you to believe. Blake stood up, addressing the board. The evidence is clear. Mrs. Warren's shares, combined with the support of other major stockholders, give her controlling interest. The board needs to vote on new leadership immediately. You can't do this. Scarlett's voice shook. Charlie, tell them. But Charlie just sat there, staring at the business card in his hands. All those times you tried to give me advice, when you warned me about the Asian market expansion, you ignored me. I finished, because your wife convinced you I was nothing but a burden. The board recognizes Mrs. Warren, Blake announced formally. The floor is yours. I stood, straightening my jacket. My first action as majority shareholder is to propose a complete restructuring of the executive team. Olivia will take over as COO, effective immediately. Scarlett laughed, but it sounded hollow. You can't be serious. My second action, I continued, is to launch a full investigation into the discrimination claims filed by female executives under your leadership. And my third, I paused, meeting her eyes, is to offer you a choice. A choice? She whispered. Resign quietly with a reasonable severance package or face a very public lawsuit detailing every instance of misconduct we've documented. Charlie finally found his voice. Mom, please, we can talk about this. We are talking about it, I replied. For the first time in years, we're having an honest conversation about who really holds the power in this family. Scarlett grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. This isn't over. Actually, Hope said, holding up her phone. It is. The press release about the company's new leadership just went live. Your choice, Scarlett. Dignity or disgrace? The room watched as Scarlett stormed out, her heels clicking against the floor. Charlie started to follow, then stopped, turning back to me. Why now? He asked. Why like this? Because sometimes, I said softly, the only way to teach respect is to demand it. The board will expect your resignation as CEO by end of day. As the board members filed out, Olivia touched my arm. Dad looks destroyed. He'll recover, I replied, watching my son slump in his chair. And maybe now he'll understand that underestimating people, especially women, comes with consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Aiden. How did it go? I looked around the room, at Hope's satisfied smile, at Olivia's straight shoulders, at Charlie's dawning realization of just who his mother really was. Justice, I typed back. Sweet, long overdue justice. You destroyed everything I built, Charlie said, standing in my living room 3 days after the board meeting. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, a far cry from his usual polished CEO appearance. No, I replied, setting down 2 cups of coffee. I protected what I built. There's a difference. By humiliating my wife? By taking my company? Your company? I laughed softly. Charlie, sit down. It's time we had an honest conversation about exactly how you got that company in the first place. He sat heavily on the couch, looking suddenly older. What do you mean? Remember that mysterious angel investor who saved the company during the recession? The one who pumped in millions when all the banks said no? I pulled out old documents from my desk. That was me. But the craft store was a front, a way to stay close to my children without overwhelming them with my success. I pushed his coffee closer. Your father and I agreed on that strategy before he died. Dad knew? Of course he knew. He was my partner in everything. I sat across from him. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that I was more than just your mother. You let Scarlett convince you I was worthless. The front door opened and Aiden walked in, stopping short when he saw his father. Dad, what are you doing here? Apparently learning that everything I thought I knew about my mother was a lie. Charlie replied bitterly. No, Aiden said, dropping his backpack. You're learning that everything Mom told you about Grandma was a lie. There's a difference. Charlie's head snapped up at his son's tone. You knew about this? I figured it out. Aiden shrugged. Grandma's smart. Like, really smart. But Mom always treated her like she was stupid and you just went along with it. Aiden, I warned gently. No, Grandma, he needs to hear this. Aiden turned to his father. Do you know what it's like watching Mom tear down my grandmother at every family dinner? Making jokes about her age, her ideas, her everything, and you just sat there, laughing along. Charlie's face crumpled. I never meant to… To what? I asked. To let your wife systematically discriminate against women in your company? To watch her try to force your sister out? To treat your mother like a burden? Scarlett's left me, he whispered. Took everything and left. Says she's going to fight the severance agreement. Let her try, I replied. Hope's legal team has enough evidence to bury her career 10 times over. Aiden sat next to his father. Dad, you know what Mom did was wrong, right? Charlie looked at his son, then at me. I thought I was protecting my family, my marriage, my company. By sacrificing your mother and sister? I asked quietly. The doorbell rang. Olivia stood there, holding a stack of files. Oh, she said, seeing Charlie. I can come back. No. Charlie stood up. Stay, please, I owe you an apology, too. Olivia walked in cautiously. Just one? I should have protected you from Scarlett's discrimination, he said. Should have seen what she was doing to the other women in the company. Should have remembered who taught you about business in the first place. I finished. Olivia set her files down. The board approved all the changes, by the way. New diversity initiatives, mentorship programs, revised promotion criteria. Everything you suggested, Mom. Good, I nodded. And the other matter? Legal's preparing the restraining order against Scarlett. Her threats against you are being taken very seriously. Charlie's head snapped up. Threats? What threats? I pulled out my phone, showing him the messages. His face darkened as he read them. She said she'd destroy you? Your reputation? After everything. After everything, she's still the same person she always was, I said. The only difference is now everyone can see it. Aiden touched his father's arm. Dad, are you going to be okay? Charlie looked around the room, at his son's concern, his sister's cautious distance, and finally at me, his mother, the woman he'd allowed to be diminished for so long. I don't know, he admitted. I've lost my wife, my company, my illusions, I guess. You haven't lost everything, I said softly. You still have family, real family, the kind that tells you hard truths because they love you. Even after what I let happen? Even after, Olivia said. But things have to change, Charlie, really change. He nodded slowly, then turned to me. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, I replied. But sorry isn't enough. Show me you've learned. Show your son what real respect looks like. Show your sister what real support means. And Scarlett? Let the lawyers handle Scarlett, I said firmly. Some lessons have to be learned the hard way. She's going to the media, Blake announced, striding into my office. Scarlett scheduled an interview with Business Weekly. Says she's going to expose the toxic family dynasty destroying the company. I continued signing documents, unfazed. Letter. Mallory, Hope said from her seat by the window. She's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous. So are underestimated women, I replied, just as my phone lit up with a text from Charlie. Mom, we need to talk. Scarlett's lawyers reached out. The door opened again and Olivia rushed in. You need to see this. She's already posting on LinkedIn. I took Olivia's tablet, reading Scarlett's post. When powerful women use family ties to destroy successful young executives, we must ask, who's really fighting for gender equality? Oh, that's rich, Hope scoffed. Coming from someone who systematically blocked every female promotion that crossed her desk. My phone rang. Aiden this time. Grandma, Mom's outside your house. She's making a scene. What? I stood up. Are you there? Yeah, I came to pick up some books and she just showed up. She's not okay, Grandma. She's yelling about exposing the truth. Blake was already on his phone. Security's on their way. Should I call the police? No, I said, grabbing my purse. I'll handle this myself. 20 minutes later, I pulled into my driveway. Scarlett stood on my front lawn, her designer suit wrinkled, her hair disheveled. Aiden watched nervously from the porch. Finally, Scarlett spat as I got out of my car. Ready to face me without your lawyers and board members? Scarlett, I said calmly, you're trespassing. Trespassing? She laughed hysterically. You stole my company, my husband, my life. And you want to talk about trespassing? I didn't steal anything, I replied. I simply revealed the truth. Something you've been running from for years. Truth? She stepped closer. You want truth? How about how you manipulated everything from the shadows? How you let me believe you were just a pathetic old woman while plotting to destroy me? Mom, Aiden called out. The neighbors are watching. Let them watch, Scarlett shouted. Let them see how this woman destroyed her own family. No, I said firmly. Let them see how karma finally caught up with you. Should we talk about the real reason you're here, Scarlett? About the other companies calling to ask about your discrimination record? About how no one will hire you now that the truth is out? She flinched. You did that too? You did that to yourself. Every female executive you pushed out, every promotion you blocked, every snide comment about age and experience, it all left a trail. I just helped people find it. Grandma, Aiden warned, Dad's pulling up. Charlie's car screeched to a halt in the street. He jumped out, running toward us. Scarlett, stop. This isn't helping anything. Oh, look who finally grew a spine, she sneered. Mommy's boy finally picking a side? The only side I'm picking is what's right, Charlie said. And this? This isn't right. You need help, Scarlett. Help? She pulled out her phone. I'll show you help. One call to my reporter friend and… And what? I interrupted. You'll tell them how you systematically discriminated against women? How you tried to force out your own sister-in-law? How you called your mother-in-law useless while secretly depending on her investments to keep the company afloat? You have no proof. Actually, Aiden said, holding up his phone. We have lots of proof. I've been recording everything you've said in the past 10 minutes. Want to add death threats to the restraining order? Scarlett's face crumpled. For the first time, I saw past the polished exterior to the frightened woman beneath. I worked so hard, she whispered. Everything I built, you built it on other people's pain. I said softly. On belittling others to make yourself feel powerful. That's not success, Scarlett. That's just well-dressed bullying. Charlie stepped forward. The lawyers have the divorce papers ready. Take the settlement offer, please, before you make things worse. Worse? She laughed bitterly. How could it get worse? I could press charges for harassment, I replied. I could release the emails showing how you manipulated company funds. I could make sure every business publication knows exactly why you're unemployable. Or, Charlie added, you can sign the papers, take the money, and start over somewhere else. Your choice. Scarlett looked around, at the neighbors watching, at Aiden recording, at Charlie's determined face, and finally at me. In my cardigan and sensible shoes, looking every bit the grandmother she'd underestimated. You win, she said quietly. I'll sign. As she walked to her car, shoulders slumped, I felt no triumph. Only sadness for what could have been if she'd chosen collaboration over competition, respect over ridicule. Mom? Charlie touched my arm. Are you okay? Yes, I said, watching Scarlett drive away. But remember this moment, all of you. This is what happens when power isn't balanced with wisdom, when success isn't tempered with humanity. The quarterly numbers are impressive, Blake said, sliding the report across the boardroom table. Olivia's leadership has transformed the company culture. I watched my daughter at the head of the table, confidently presenting her vision for the company's future. Charlie sat to her right, taking notes, a different man from the CEO who had once dismissed every suggestion I made. Employee satisfaction is up 60%, Olivia continued, and our new mentorship program has doubled the number of women in senior positions. Speaking of mentorship, Hope chimed in from her seat beside me. Tell them about the Scholarship Foundation, Mallory. I smiled. We're launching the Never Underestimate Foundation next month. Full rides for women pursuing business degrees with guaranteed internships at our company. The boardroom door opened and Aiden slipped in, still in his college interview suit. He gave me a thumbs up before taking a seat. How'd it go? Charlie whispered to his son. The dean was impressed. Aiden grinned. Especially when I talked about learning business strategy from Grandma. Of course she was impressed, Olivia said. How many applicants can say they learned corporate takeovers at their grandmother's kitchen table? The room laughed, and I felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the summer heat. This was what I'd fought for. Not just respect, but understanding. Not just power, but purpose. Before we end this meeting, I said, standing up, I have an announcement. As of next quarter, I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations. Mom? Charlie looked concerned. Is everything okay? Everything's perfect, I assured him. But it's time for the next generation to take the reins. Olivia has proven herself more than capable as CEO. And Charlie… Yes? He sat straighter. Your work with the diversity initiative has shown me you've learned from past mistakes. The board agrees you're ready to return as COO, working under your sister's leadership. Charlie's eyes widened. You'd trust me with that? After everything? Trust is earned, I said. And you've earned it back, one day at a time. What about Scarlett? Someone asked. Last I heard, Hope replied, she's working entry-level at a small firm in another state. Sometimes the best lesson is having to start over. And the best revenge, Aiden added, is success. I shook my head. No, the best revenge is seeing your family grow stronger from adversity. Speaking of which, I pulled out an envelope. Aiden, this is for you. He opened it, then gasped. Grandma, these are shares in the company. Your trust fund, I explained. But with one condition, you have to work your way up from the bottom. No shortcuts, no nepotism. Just like I did. Deal, he said instantly. When can I start? After college, Charlie and Olivia said in unison, then laughed. As the meeting wrapped up, Blake approached me. You've built something remarkable here, Mallory. Not just a company, but a legacy. A legacy of what? Charlie asked, joining us. Of resilience, Olivia answered. Of proving that it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Of consequences, Aiden added. And second chances. I looked around the room, at my children, my grandson, my friends. At the empire, I'd built twice. Once in secret and once in the light. You know what the best part is? I said. No one will ever call me a useless old woman again. They'd better not. Hope laughed. Or they'll find out exactly how useful you can be. Mom, Charlie said softly. I never properly apologized for letting Scarlett treat you that way. For treating you that way myself. Actions speak louder than apologies, I replied. And your actions these past months have said everything necessary. Speaking of actions, Olivia interjected, we're late for dinner. Hope, Blake, you're joining us, right? Wouldn't miss it, Hope said. Someone has to help Mallory tell embarrassing stories about all of you. As we gathered our things, Aiden hung back. Grandma, thank you. Not just for the shares, but for showing me what real strength looks like. I hugged him tight, remembering the boy who'd watched his mother dismiss his grandmother, who'd known something was wrong but hadn't known how to fix it. Ready to go home? Charlie asked, holding the door. Yes, I said, looking at my family. Broken but rebuilt, stronger at the mended places. I'm ready. And as we walked out together, I thought about that day in Charlie's kitchen, when Scarlett had called me useless. How sometimes the worst insults lead to the best revelations. How sometimes you have to break something to fix it properly. How sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply reveal who you've been all along.